MLB The Show 21 is an historic game. For the first time since the series began in 2006, both Xbox and PlayStation owners can take their favorite teams head-to-head in Sony San Diego's consistently excellent baseball simulation. And it's even on Game Pass. With that in mind, this year's edition of 3 distinct difficulty modes and in-depth tutorial cards makes a lot of sense for helping new players break into its complex game modes. It also has an enticing new custom stadium creator and the ability to export your Road to the Show player across modes. That's something fans have been asking for years. That said, moment-to-moment gameplay isn't meaningfully different from the most recent iterations, and it doesn't look like a generational leap forward, so it's not quite a home run for series veterans, especially if you aren't playing on a DualSense controller. The biggest new feature of the year is the flexible Stadium Creator, which brings a new layer of depth and creativity to MLB The Show. You can alter seating arrangements, change the height and location of your outfield walls, and even create entire cities in the background. But like most first drafts, it has some areas that need improvement. The controls are tough to get used to and can often seem misleading, especially if you're trying to make your way through its confusing menu system. It's also weird that none of your custom ballparks have a nighttime variant. Of the returning modes, the Road to the Show campaign mode has received the most significant changes from last year's version. For starters, your character is a two-way player by default, meaning that they can be a hitter and a pitcher without you needing to create a new save file in order to switch between the two roles. Eventually, anyway. You need to play several games before you're even allowed the option to specialize the way you want. That's a little annoying. Another nice touch is that when the campaign's bare-bones story is done, you can take your custom player into Diamond Dynasty or Franchise mode, where you can finally pair them with your own custom teams. The bummer here is that you can no longer move your save file forward from previous games in the series. What's with that, Sony? When it comes to content, there is still no baseball simulator on the planet that is as attentive to its teams and rosters, as meticulous with the momentum of its on-field baseball simulation, or as awash with diverse and interesting gameplay modes as MLB The Show. March to October mode isn't too much different this year than last, but it still lets you take the reins of your team of choice and participate in vignettes where your decision as a pinch hitter can change the dynamic of a ball game. And its momentum system that makes your team play better or worse based on your performance is still great. Over in the Diamond Dynasty card collection mode, things are a bit friendlier this year. It offers the same diverse set of modes like last year's fantastic Showdown mode, Battle Royale, and more. The main difference is that it's much more generous. You can carry your Road to the Show player over with all their stats intact, and it introduces the new Community Parallel cards, which let you level up each player card to keep them relevant for longer. And of course, MLB The Show 21's franchise mode benefits greatly from custom stadiums and the ability to bring your Road to the Show player into your custom teams. However, it's disappointing that there is still no way to take your franchise mode team head-to-head with others online, especially given that this year's edition of cross-platform multiplayer seems like the perfect opportunity for that. MLB The Show 21 can also lay claim to the cleanest main menu screen in the series' recent memory. You know exactly where you want to go for the experience you want to have, and all of the most feature-rich modes are right at the top. It really ties everything together. You immediately have a selection between casual, simulation, and competitive modes, which means you can fine-tune the amount of challenge you want right off the bat. Everything you need to know about each of MLB The Show's controls and game modes is broken down for you into these convenient tutorial cards. The tougher simulation mode lets you play with things like super precise zone-based hitting and a brand new pinpoint pitching feature. It's a much more challenging pitching mode where you use your thumbsticks to manually wind up the pitch, giving you maximum control over the ball.
Leading up to this ball game.
On the other hand, the graphics aren't quite as revolutionary as you'd expect, which is kind of a letdown from a Sony developed game appearing on the PlayStation 5. The field looks as good as always, but there's really nothing much about this that jumps off the screen if you've played any of the other recent MLB The Show games on a PS4 Pro. Player models are well beyond showing their age, and most textures still look like they were picked directly out of the previous games. The problem extends to reused animations and even voiced lines as well. And though you can play at 4K 60 frames per second on new consoles, there's no 120 frames per second mode available. That's not to say this isn't worth playing on PS5. The DualSense controller and Pulse 3D headphones combine to create the most immersive stadium experience yet. It's impossible to convey in video, but feeling the DualSense pulse between your palms as the pitcher winds up their pitch to the backdrop of music and crowd cheers echoing around the stadium is sublime.
Number 3, but the damage has been done. Is now
MLB The Show 21 does a great job of opening its pristine baseball simulator to a brand new group of players as it arrives on Xbox for the first time. Much like MLB The Show 20 before it, it still plays a bit too safe in most instances, only offering marginal gains over its predecessor with things like menu organization and improved customization. Visually, everything is nearly identical. Meanwhile, it kneecaps one of the series' key continuity features by cutting off save transfers from previous games. That's a puzzling decision, but it's hard to believe it'd be a deal breaker for longtime fans in the face of additions like the flexible new stadium creator, cross-platform multiplayer, and awesome DualSense support. MLB The Show 21 might not be an all-star, but it's still far and away the best baseball game you can pick up and play on any platform. For more on MLB The Show, check out 10 minutes of Xbox Series X gameplay, and for everything else, stick with IGN.